Welcome everyone. My name is Jatin Dhawan. I am the North America Marketing Manager for Kellton Tech. Thank you for joining us for our webinar 5 Simple Ways to Migrate Boomi Molecule to Cloud. Before we get started, I need to go over a little bit of housekeeping. Should you have any questions during the presentation, please type them into the Q&A section of your control panel and we will address them at the end of the webinar. If we do not have the time to respond to your questions live, we will respond to them via email. As a reminder, this session is being recorded. We will also be sending a link to the recording and the slide deck in the next few days. But before we get started on today's topic, I would like you to probably provide you with a brief corporate overview of Kelton Tech. Kelton Tech has been a pioneer of digital transformation for the past decade with operations in North America, Europe, and Asia Pacific. Our client range from startups to Fortune 500 companies with the core strength supported through our ISO 9001 certification and CMMI Level 5 compliance. We are a 1500 plus employees strong and are a publicly traded company. I'm honored to have with me today Siva and Brian. Siva has decades of experience in building IT integration solutions using Dell Boomi MuleSoft, Software AG, and Oracle SOA Suite. His areas of focus include shaping technology strategies, steering adoption, and evaluation phases to driving two-level implementations. Brian has a passion for solving business challenges with a keen interest in emerging integration technologies. Brian thrives in an environment where autonomy and personal responsibility is expected. At Boomi, Brian has helped many businesses unlock hidden ROI in their IT landscape by making enterprises class integration technologies accessible and affordable. Now I'll hand it over to Siva to begin our official webinar discussion on 5 simple ways to migrate Boomi Molecule to cloud. Over to you, Siva.
Thank you, Jatin. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us in today's webinar. I am Siva Chavli. Before I go into today's agenda, here is a little introduction slide talking about our abilities working on the digital transformation enablers. Uh, we are veterans in the integration space. We work on a lot of integration tools, like Boomi, predominantly Software AG, MuleSoft, etc. And we have provided a lot of API strategy and API lifecycle management solutions to a number of customers across US and UK. Uh, we also provide our solution also is around RPA, process improvement and process automation and analytics. So without much delay, this is just a slide that talks about our capabilities and how we enable that digital transformation and strategies for you. But then I'll quickly get started with the agenda of the topic today, which is twofold. In the first part, we'll be talking about the operational challenges with the Boomi Molecule. So we'll start with a little introduction on the Boomi Unified Enterprise Platform, and then we'll get on to the Boomi Molecule architecture and how to achieve the KPIs that an architect looks around. The second part of the webinar is around the Boomi Molecule cloud migration. Why should we talk about that cloud migration? What are different ways to migrate the existing environment from various customer scenarios perspective to cloud? And then we are also joined by our Boomi partner today, Mr. Brian Kelly, who would be talking us through the Boomi managed cloud services part and multi-cloud architectures around Boomi. Then followed by that, we will have question and answers. Again, a reminder, in case if we are not able to get to your questions during this webinar, we'll get back to you on an email. All right, getting started. So the Boomi's Unified Enterprise Application Platform is a true multi-purpose platform as a service offering, starting with integration capabilities to master data management and flow development. I believe Boomi's journey started with the B2B and EDI implementation applications and expanded its wings to integration platform as a service that is intelligent, flexible, and scalable, and accelerates your business by making information, interactions, and innovations flow faster. It supports all application integration processes between cloud platform, software as a service, and on-premise systems. If someone is looking to modernize their EDI processes or the existing B2B environment, then I would think it's best thought to have Boomi on top of your evaluation list for that. Next comes the Boomi API management solution. It's a unified full lifecycle API management solution that can manage the end-to-end API lifecycle actions, starting with the design, implementation, scalability of the APIs, and of course the security. Next, the Boomi Flow. Boomi Flow provides a low-code development platform to create customer journeys and automate workflows from simple to sophisticated. Boomi's Master Data Hub solution is a master data management tool that can help to maintain data integrity and enables you to keep data clean, accurate, and consistent across multiple data domains in the organization. At the core of the Boomi platform are the self-service data catalog discovery and preparation tools to empower business users. With automation and intelligence, Boomi predicts the context of data for users to understand where the data resides and ingest into visualization and analytics. So before we get started, our focus area for this webinar is the Boomi integration platform and in cloud and as well as in the on-premise. So a little slide talking about the credibility of the Boomi's platform in the market. This slide is from August 2020 from Gartner. So it explains or it talks about Boomi standing in the current iPaaS platform offerings of the market. And Boomi stood out obviously as a leader in the data segment quadrant. I also have another pick here that is from the Forrester Wave Q1 2019. And again, Boomi stood out as an obvious leader here. And it's being on the rightmost side indicates the strongest strategy, and the bubble size indicates the market presence. So it has got thousands of customers which are already on board with the Boomi iPaaS offering and getting benefited with that. Right. Boomi has got a lot of connectors. The connectors are the main component that facilitate integration and contain all the information that is needed to connect to a data source or application. Connectors enable us to easily connect to any third-party applications such as Salesforce, NetSuite, or SAP, or a database or whatnot. And they just send and receive the connection data between the systems in a secure way. So it takes care of all the connection management, which traditionally a developer has to do. So Boomi's connectors are categorized into 4 different connectors. One is application connectors. The application connectors provide the connectivity to specific functional software applications like the CRM applications, Salesforce, ERP, SAP for HANA, AWS, etc. The technology connectors provide connectivity to and from the web applications, on-premise applications, and the common data repositories. Like essentially look at the various protocols we use, like HTTP, FTP, FTPS, JMS, DB, etc. The event-driven connectors enable the event-driven architecture-based integration solutions. They have connectors like Solace, Kafka, RabbitMQ, etc., using which you can create solutions for asynchronous publish and subscribe solutions, event-driven connections, whether the events are getting generated from your devices or cloud or on-premise application footprint. And Boomi also has something called connector SDK. So if you are looking for a connector that is not already available on the Boomi right now, then Boomi provides an SDK which empowers the applications teams to build a connector quickly by themselves without having to go and worry about configuring that from the scratch or creating that from the scratch. On the right side, you can see a set of featured connectors of Boomi, like Kafka, Microsoft, AWS, Oracle, NetSuite, Shopify, etc. For a data integration, I like the Snowflake connector here. A lot of implementations are going around Boomi and Snowflake these days. This slide talks about a list of supported connectors on the Boomi iPaaS. It's just an exhaustive list. Like I said, if you are looking for a connector and that's not listed in this one, then you can refer to the below link here and figure out how you can use the connector SDK and build a connector by yourself, or take the help of Boomi professional services or partners like us on how to build that. All right, the core technical topic of the day today, which is the Boomi functionality. So Boomi has something called a Boomi Atom Sphere and Boomi Atom. Boomi Atom Sphere is a cloud component. It sits in the Boomi's data center, and it's the home for a lot of Boomi applications. It's, in other words, it's also the IDE for the integration processes development and flows development. It's also the controlling and monitoring platform of all the Boomi applications. So if you are a Boomi developer, or if you are planning to develop something on Boomi, then you would log in into the Boomi Atom Sphere, which is the platform.boomi.com, and then start looking to configure your processes. When every IDE will have to deploy its code into some runtime for it to execute. So that's what it is, the Boomi Atom. So it's a cloud native runtime engine. It's a single unit. I like the name Atom, the way they gave it here. It's like a lightweight and meant to process the engine, process the request coming from the Atom Sphere. So it executes the processes as they are fetched from the Atom Sphere. What I mean by that is that, like I said, the Boomi Atom Sphere is a cloud system, cloud platform, whereas the Atom is cloud native. It can be deployed anywhere, whether it may be on your on-premise application or infrastructure, or in a hybrid cloud infrastructure. So you never need to worry about how does Boomi Atom Sphere make a connection to your Atom. So rather, Boomi Atom makes a reverse invoke connection to your Atom Sphere, fetches the processes which are waiting to be executed or deployed, and then it runs those processes on the the runtime engine. So this is one of the finest functionalities of Boomi. So you don't need to punch holes to your firewall when you're working with Boomi integration platform. Moving on. So the core components, again, just to reiterate, the Boomi Atom Sphere and the Boomi Atom. Atom is the lightweight runtime cloud native engine. Well, if I want a clustered environment or high availability, how do I do that? One way a lot of customers work around is that they install multiple atoms in their environment, and then they will load balance it through an external load balancer. The other approach is you can use a Boomi Molecule. It's a single tenant, which means only one customer can use it if you are implementing that in your own infrastructure, where multiple atoms are clustered together for load balancing, high availability, and scalability. So the Boomi Molecule has multiple nodes. Like I said, it has something called the head node, which orchestrates the load balancing, high availability, and scalability. And the clustering is essentially happening through the central component called the NFS server. So there has to be a way, whether whatever platform you're talking about, there has to be a way which plugs all these runtime engines together so that an application level cluster can be established. So there has to be a context sharing, resource sharing, etc. And the shared storage platform that I'm talking about here is essentially that central component for clustering. So if you're getting a request, the head node will take the request, and then it will look to send the request to the child nodes first, the child nodes of the molecule first. Then if you have, the way it works is that if you have n number of requests, molecule head node tries to distribute all these incoming requests equally to all the child nodes available there. If all child nodes are executing the same n number of threads, then Boomi Molecule will send the next incoming request to the node which hasn't received the request in the recent past. So that's how it works. And from a high availability perspective, if any child node goes down, or then another node will pick up that request and then access it. But it doesn't mean that, just like in any other context as well, it doesn't mean that if a process is being executed by one child node and during in transit execution, if that node goes down, no other node can pick it up. Of course, it would tend to fail. But if the head node itself goes down, then another child node assumes the responsibility of the head node, and then it provides again, the same set of the same set of features like load balancing, high availability, and scalability across the rest of the molecule nodes available. So that way, it's a robust architecture. So it provides distributed responsibilities. Of course, the head node, whatever is designated as head node, will tend to take care of these responsibilities. But that said, any other node can also assume the responsibility of head node in case it goes down. But the core component that we are highlighting here is that not only the head node, but the NFS server, because that's the central engine that enables the clustering. All right, moving on. So Boomi Molecule is, of course, it's very scalable and reliable. So how does it do? If you want to install Boomi Molecule in your environment, of course, you would start with two servers. One is to keep your head node, and the other one is for the NFS server where you install the molecule and the central shared storage. And if you want to if you want to establish high availability, you would install one more molecule node. So, or one more molecule node, or if you want to increase the capacity on the existing system, then you could also vertically increase the size of the molecule node in terms of its resources like the memory or the storage, etc. So this is how I established the high availability. But then if I want more, again, I can consider my vertical scaling options, or I can go with horizontal scaling where I can add one more child node. So likewise, if I if vertical scaling is not always a solution, we know that, because vertical scaling essentially restricts the business agility, where you need to take care of business continuity, and you need to shut down the system, increase the resources, bring it back up, and do it on a rolling restart basis across all the nodes of the server. But then you are limited by the capacity of the hardware you are running on at any point of time. If you have to increase or over provision the hardware, that is another pain that you don't want to go through because of the cost and all the other constraints around that. So obviously it allows a horizontal scalability, and you can increase the number of molecule nodes under number of nodes under a molecule as much as you want. But I believe there is a limitation of 10. No one would ever go to 10, of course, because uh, that's not really needed in most of the situations. All right. Here are a couple of metrics that are gathered from the community, Boomi community. So if you look at this, the left side graph, it talks about the time and the number of records in the batch. It's a batch processing metric. So as the number of metrics are around like 100K, Boomi is essentially taking less than a minute of time. If it is 500, it is taking about 2-3 minutes. And if it is 1 million, it is taking around 5 minutes or 6 minutes. And you look at the blue line indicates the size of the memory, 512 MB. And if you want to increase it to 4 GB, then how it can reduce the processing time is what this graph depicts. So essentially, if you have a 4 GB RAM system and to process 5 million records, Boomi would take about 35 minutes or 34 minutes. On the right side, it talks about the batch processing time. Again, if you have, it's like the vertical scaling option. On the right side, it talks about the horizontal scalability. What if you increase the number of nodes? So the blue line here indicates the 3-node scenario, where if you have like 10 million records in your flow, then it would take about 30 minutes, I mean, nearly 40 minutes. But then that time goes down with increased nodes. Like if it has like 5 nodes, the time could somewhat be reduced. So if you look at it, there is no significant difference between a 3-node and a 5-node or a 4-node at 10 million capacity. But as you increase the number of records in the batch, that's where you tend to see significant difference in the processing times. But why is it not too much different? If I'm increasing the number of nodes horizontally, why is the time difference is not varying like significantly? Those are all some stuff that we will be talking about gradually. All right. So next comes the uh, The Boomi operational challenges. Several customers use Linux operating system for molecule installation, and about 1,000 customers use Windows-based operating system, and a few uses Mac. So 1,000 customers use Windows on-premise installation of the molecule, uh, which which is like point of consideration for our talk basically. The Windows-based molecules tend to have a little bit of instability, or their stability is kind of unpredictable in Windows environment. The Atom installations, of course, work across the OSs very seamlessly. However, when it comes to the molecules, they're a little bit unpredictable. And you could see the snippet from Boomi that says that it could be because of the file system backups running at that point of time when the Boomi processor getting executed, or it could be the virus scanning utilities, or it could be the automated patching of the file system, etc. That could be limiting the abilities of Boomi molecule nodes to work in conjunction with the cluster shared storage, and that could give you a set of unpredictable errors which are difficult to identify and troubleshoot. So what shall we do? Like is something which is of a concern. Of course, there are certain things that we all try at the first place. Like, you would want to make sure that you install your shared storage in the same data center as that of your molecule nodes, and you may want to keep the working copies of your the files. Boomi writes each of the documents to a file system, so that it can actually, that's the way it functions basically. Let me put it at this level. So Boomi writes each document that it processes to the file system temporarily during the execution of the process. And if that file system is also the shared storage, then you would probably have a little bit of time delays basically associated with it. You're talking to a different server than your local copy. You don't need to do that. Basically, you can have a local working directory to keep the runtime files or temporary runtime files. So you would consider options like this on how you can improve it, or you can look out for this the virus scanning utilities around this time and take care of all of that. But there can be a scenario where this kind of operational challenges can be still persisting. What kind of operational challenges am I talking about? It could be the molecule nodes going offline and you don't know why, or the head node is getting shifted from node 1 to node 2. You don't know why. Or you may be seeing a weird error, something like no class definition found. Or it could be that multiple head nodes are found at any point of time. So these are all like various issues which are not very prominent in the Linux or the Mac kind of operating systems, but most frequently seen in the Windows. If you can relate any of your existing environment related issues with this kind of errors, or other kind of errors that you may be seeing, then maybe we would say that watch out for this combination. If you're a Boomi molecule running on on-premise Windows, then there is caution to be exercised. All right. And not only that, it also it also creates a little bit of rigidity in terms of scalability. Like we talked about in the past, you have vertical scaling and horizontal scaling options, but then vertical scaling restricts the agility, and the horizontal scaling essentially is not showing like too much of big difference in the matrix. So, yep, if you want scalability, this is what you do. You keep increasing the number of nodes. And then when you increase the number of nodes to n number of nodes, then there could be a problem around this shared storage. Because like I said, Boomi has a lot of IO processing happening with the shared storage. So if you increase the number of nodes interacting with the shared storage, then the IO contention can happen on the server, and which could limit or create a number of different issues that we are talking about so far. So this is the point I wanted to take away from this slide. Moving on. So like I said, the potential reasons for some of these issues could be the disk latency because of the lot of IO processing around that, and the bulk processes like virus scans and all that we talked about. And the problem gets worse if you are processing, or if you have a large file processing or large volume file processing needs. So they all tend to consume a lot of communication from the molecule nodes to your cluster shared storage. And of course, the network latencies between the nodes and the NFS server could also contribute to some of the issues that we were talking about. So this is where if we summarize, the dilemma of the architect around this is that how does one maintain a good compromise or good balance between the performance, scalability, agility, operational stability, and cost? If you are working on a over provisioned hardware, of course, we were blessed with such kind of infrastructures in the past, but that's a cost constraint right now, right? Everyone sees that as a cost constraint. So you are limited by your hardware, even though you're working in on-premise, because the cloud has changed the mindsets of all of us in that in that direction. So you don't want to have a over provisioned hardware, so you don't have like much vertical scalability option, and then you need to go with the horizontal scalability. How the horizontal scalability, essentially, again, you need to install a new node. It's like going through the complete life cycle of that Atom installation again, and that restricts a little bit of agility there. And scalability perspective, as you keep increasing the nodes or the vertical scalability, you could see little differences in the way it works basically. And that is because of other operational challenges. Like if you are increasing the number of nodes of the molecule, then you are also expecting or anticipating some of the operational challenges like the disk contention, etc. So what shall we do? This is the dilemma of the architect working around this. And that's where we thought that it's a good segue for us to think through the cloud area of the Boomi. Of course, there are different ways you can manage this problem in your on-premise installation itself, but then addressing one problem may not be exactly addressing all the problems in your environment. So it's like a whack-a-mole kind of situation like we talked about. And that's where we think that Boomi Molecule cloud migration could be a good solution. And not only to address these challenges, but there are other advantages that you may be getting out of this. So in the part of the talk, I'll be talking through the first few slides, like first few points here, the drivers for cloud migration, and the crowdsourcing functionality of Boomi, which is a unique differentiator. And then we'll move on to the 5 different ways to migrate the molecule to cloud and their pros and cons. And then my partner of the webinar today, Brian Kelly, would talk about the rest of the items. All right, what are the drivers for Boomi cloud migration? Like we said, you break the dilemma. You don't need to worry about any compromise here. You get it all. Operational stability, agility, performance, cost, and elastic scalability. Everything is granted on the cloud, iPaaS. And the digital transformation initiatives of the organizations made it work through a lot of mobile and SaaS and PaaS applications. You're SaaSifying and PaaSifying your application infrastructure. So you need to have iPaaS footprint that can integrate your SaaS applications and PaaS applications without having to go through an on-premise integration platform always. The next one is you can stay upgraded on the latest and greatest features of the platform. The way Boomi upgrade works is beautiful. So unlike the traditional integration platforms where upgrades are a huge time-taking processes with millions of dollars of cost, Boomi's upgrades work seamlessly. So if you are in cloud, those are all seamless for you. They will get updated as you go. If you are on cloud, it gives you a 15 days window for you to consider upgrade for the latest and greatest features that are getting released every month. So Boomi keeps you updated on your platform features every month. So as they release these features to the existing versions, how do you ensure that the existing integrations are working fine? Because that's the major component of testing, major component of the upgrades of the traditional integration platform. How do you regression test the environments? I have worked in environments where millions of dollars are spent on regression testing alone during the upgrades. So how does it do? So Boomi has something called Boomi Assure, and Boomi Assure is a kind of unique capability that Boomi offers, uh, using which a customer can submit their test cases and test data to Boomi when they are actually testing a specific integration. And these test cases will be used by Boomi to execute before actually pushing those changes onto your environment. And it does that for all the customers across. So the customers can submit thousands of test cases across the world. All the customers can submit thousands of test cases to Boomi, and Boomi can take care of testing those integrations before pushing them to the environment. So which is the greatest feature, and you're always assured of the regression testing, it works. And would I submit like hundreds of test cases from my environment alone, or 10 20 different test cases for each of the integrations? Maybe you can do that, but you don't need to do that. You might choose to go with the integration pattern specific test cases, or you might choose to go with the critical integration test case, etc. But you also have to submit the test data around that, of course. Well, next one is you are hands off with managed cloud services with Boomi. So there are different deployment options, and we will talk about how does the managed cloud services part work in the coming slide. But it actually lets you hands off and stay concentrated on the data integrations or the applications integrations, which is a real business for you. Next one is the Boomi's unique crowdsourcing features. So this is an interesting topic. So crowdsourcing is a word which we might have heard in different scenarios outside, but an integration platform as a service scenario, crowdsourcing is essentially around the positive network effects when more customers are onboarded onto Boomi's iPaaS. The usage patterns, the metadata around the usage patterns is analyzed using AI and machine learning capabilities. And it kind of enables a functionality called Boomi Suggest, for example. So Boomi Suggest enables you to do an auto mapping. So if you are talking about an integration between two SaaS applications, just because the data maps are like quite standard, if you click on data signatures are quite standard in those cases. If you click on the Boomi Suggest, the auto mapping can happen. You don't need to manually map hundreds of fields by yourself, which in other words translate to the time to market. You are not doing this by yourself manually. Rather, you are doing a quick verification and then going forward with the mapping. And not only for the SaaS applications, but if you have any other kind of signatures as well, it can have its AI and machine learning capabilities analyze what field is that based on the naming conventions, etc. And then it can provide an auto mapping functionality for you. Of course, auto mapping is provided in other integration tools as well, but this is a crowdsourcing feature. So which means that you have more success rate if you are working with even a new kind of data signatures. Next comes the Boomi Resolve. Boomi Resolve is uh, a platform, like when you are working on the platform, you might tend to get a lot of errors, like it could be a data error, or it could be a connectivity error with a specific application. So how do you address that kind of challenges? In a traditional environment, you go to the documentation, you search for this stuff around that, or you might create a support ticket if you don't get any clue in the community pages or in Google pages, basically. But in Boomi Resolve, what it does is like it will actually go through all that search for you behind the screens if any customer has frequently gone through that kind of errors, and provide the possible resolution for you, which means again, it's a greater time to market. How does it solve the problem? Here, it just gives you, hey, it looks like a similar problem was faced by a different customer, so try this option, something like that. And it also has a lot of integration packs, which are the recipes of the iPaaS. Of course, a lot of iPaaS tools do provide some or the other sort of recipes. So look at the recipes. This is another critical component in the evaluation of the iPaaS. If you look at the recipes and what systems are they connecting, and if it is meant to address the challenges that you have or the systems you connect, then that's a good thing for you in that direction. And process libraries is something which you can publish your process libraries to the marketplace, so that if anyone wants to reuse them, they can reuse that. Or there are already existing process libraries with which create like sample processes with systems like Salesforce, database, and REST API, SOAP API, etc., which you can actually leverage to get started as quickly as possible. Another important thing is the predictive assistance. The Boomi's predictive assistance is a patented innovation where it integrates near real-time customer usage metrics, such as amount of data flowing through integrations and active updates to integrations. And with Dell Boomi's customer relationship management CRM system, the Dell Boomi client services team can proactively reach out to you, and if your usage metrics indicate that, an engagement can increase your success and optimize your usage around the Boomi integration platform. I think that is one of the greatest features I feel, or unique differentiators among rest of the tools. Next comes the citizen development. A lot of integration platforms do talk about this iPaaS capabilities with respect to the citizen integration empowerment, but Boomi does truly empower the citizen integrator development, where any semi-technical person or a business user can quickly configure the systems around the way they want and then get benefited. So again, that translates to how quickly you can get the integrations developed on Boomi's platform, and how you can leverage these benefits to time to market actually. Well, now that we talked about the drivers of Boomi Cloud, the advantages of Boomi, so how do we get there? Here are the five strategies that you can consider. One is, I'm getting started in interest of time. First one is migrate to Boomi Public Atom Cloud. The Boomi Public Atom Cloud, essentially, it doesn't need any no on-premises footprint. It's a zero footprint strategy. It's a public Atom Cloud, multi-tenant, which means multiple other customers could be leveraging the same infrastructure, which means your infrastructure costs are shared. So it's a cost-effective solution, and it can integrate a lot of cloud applications, SaaS and PaaS applications that you're working on. And this is especially useful for businesses like who do not have enterprise applications on-premises footprint, and for those enterprises who have like larger on-premise footprint, and they have cloud strategies and they're moving to there, and they were looking for an effective iPaaS solution rather than going with the same vendor who is providing their on-premise solutions. Then you can have Boomi iPaaS dedicatedly for your cloud application integration as well. And you will have, of course, a mechanism to interact with your on-premise integration platform and Boomi at that point of time. But just like any internet application, the Boomi Atom Cloud cannot connect to your enterprise application system, enterprise applications, because it's just sitting outside of your enterprise. It's a security risk, right? You don't want to allow a new connection to coming in. So the advantages, like I said, zero footprint, it's always available, elastically scalable, and you don't need to worry about it. Boomi takes care of it behind the screens for you. And it's a shared infrastructure. It can support high volume transactions. If you want to have metrics around how much each tenant that you're given, how much transaction volume it can process per second, etc. Those are the metrics that you can get from either people like us or from Boomi. Do reach us out. And the disk space monitoring features that we are talking about, the operational stability, this is nothing of your concern anymore. So that is all hidden for you. All you see is a beautiful platform that just does the job that you want. That's it. And seamless forked executions, which means that your scalability and performances are increased. Again, through managed services, you don't need to worry about it. But then there is a caution. Here, if you are looking to leverage this Boomi Public Atom Cloud, up to 1 GB of volume per month is at no charge, but then additional costs will be applied as the usage goes. And you cannot connect to on-premise applications. Like I said, it's an internet applications. You cannot allow an internet application to work with your internal systems. That's why it cannot connect. And it is limited to 50 simultaneous process executions. And if you want to have like a lot of customizations required, for example, if you want to use a different encoding rather than UTF-8, then maybe you need to look at Boomi documentation if it is supported there or not. And no control on the environment, of course, because it's an MCS part. The next one is around the hybrid integration architecture. It is essentially to address all the challenges that we talked about, but still leverage all the advantages also from the public cloud, public atom cloud. So you essentially have a local atom sitting in your on-premise application footprint, and that acts as a cloud gateway that can actually integrate your cloud and on-premise integrations together, cloud and on-premise applications together, because it's a reverse invoke configuration. So you never need to open a firewall, punch a firewall port from your cloud to on-premise systems. Rather, it's always the other way around. And it's well suited for brand new implementations. Meaning, if you're looking to go to Oracle Cloud implementation, or or a new CRM cloud implementation using Salesforce, then this kind of integration architecture suits well in that scenario. And the success depends on the quality of the integration strategy and architecture, though. Let's look at the pros and cons here. Of course, it's a typical industry architecture for hybrid integration. It's very popular. A lot of customers use this kind of model today, and it solves all the technical and functional challenges that we have talked about in the public cloud. It's elastically scalable, and it empowers the citizen integration development, just like public cloud as well. The caution here is that if your integration strategies and architectures are not well defined in a way uh, that clearly gives you a direction on what kind of where should your integration be developed, is it on premise or cloud, then it's kind of a challenge. It might end up getting into a rework. So you might have these architectural discussions and debates going on for each integration that you may want to develop. And you may also have some confusion about how much capacity to maintain on premise for each integration, etc. And it could also give a different set of operational challenges, which are definitely addressable. For example, how do you deal with upgrades? And if Boomi Molecule is getting upgraded automatically, and if you have a 15 days window, how do you manage the transition between these two? How do you keep them in alignment and then do the upgrades together? And how do you monitor the environments if you have two different systems sitting in two different areas? And of course, again, you have limited control here on the on-premise, but on the cloud, you don't have much control. But any customizations that we were talking about before can be now handled, or any sensitive integrations can be now handled on the on-premise, and you keep the quick and easiest integrations on the cloud part. The third third option we have is migrate to your own private cloud. So you go with a private cloud choice that you have, maybe AWS, Google, or Azure, and have your Boomi Molecule installed over there. And just like the functionality is again as similar as that of your on-premise installation now. Again, some of the disadvantages could be, we'll be talking about that in a minute. But then I just want to give you a quick reference here, which is AWS and Boomi have strong tie-ups, and they do provide a quick start architecture template that you could just implement in your AWS environment and get your molecule up and running in minutes of time. So this architecture that you see on my screen is kind of created a bit, I guess, a couple of years ago. From a cost optimization perspective specific to your enterprise, you might want to consider a different option at that point of time. Yep, and then next comes the pros and cons. Of course, you'll have to manage from the caution perspective. You have to manage all your application cloud infrastructure by yourself. You need to deal with the cost efficiency strategies, etc. And the traditional on-premise environment, whatever the operational complexities that you saw around the disk latencies, could potentially be resolved here because of the high efficiency disk storage servers, or elastic file storage, etc., that AWS kind of cloud platforms do offer, which are generally more efficient than what on-premise infrastructure we have, just because our on-premise infrastructure could be like shared, or it could be having other shared across other applications, etc. And again, in the cloud, you only have horizontal scalability, but not vertical scalability. So you need to, choose your the instances, EC2 instances appropriately at the first time installation. Next and quick thing is the containerization of the Boomi Molecule. It's kind of an emerging approach. So Boomi has, again, a quick reference architectural template with AWS. So Boomi Kubernetes Molecule on AWS uses Amazon's Elastic Kubernetes Service, EKS, to help add and remove nodes as dictated by resource demands. This allows the molecule to elastically add nodes to meet high volume demands and remove those nodes when they are no longer required to support operational efficiency and saving costs for you. So this is kind of, as I heard in the past, that this is not a fully mature solution yet, which means that, of course, they do have support. Boomi does have support for that. But then if you do not have like strong technical team who can actually containerize this application and handle this deployment across, then maybe you need to be watchful around that. And of course, if you're talking about horizontally scaling your molecules in a cloud environment or anywhere else, then you need to also stay watchful about the licenses that you have right now from Boomi. So in simple words, it's a best solution, emerging solution. Maybe it's a future driving solution, but today there is a caution that you may be better to wait until it's in the exploitation phases of the solution, and make sure you have a robust CI/CD solution implementation before you even consider this. So with this, I have the fifth option, which is the managed private cloud. But then I will be handing it over to my friend in the webinar today, this Brian Kelly. He will be talking to us on the managed cloud services part and the last part of the option that I'm talking about. Brian, over to you.
Thanks, Eva. Appreciate it. So we can move on to the next slide here, and just want to kind of go over one of the main themes that Steve has been talking about and that Boomi preaches, all day, every day to our customers and current customers, and trying to preach that flexibility no matter what kind of architecture you guys currently have or what you're trying to aspire to have. We have a variety of options for that, right? So we've talked a lot about today from Steve's options about migrating to the cloud, right? So whether you're using kind of an intra-cloud setup on the far right here with either, Docker image containers or AWS or Azure or GCP, there's a lot of different platforms you can store these atoms on and replace these atoms on to run in the atom or in clouds, as well as those on-premise ones that you guys are currently using today, right? So no matter what, you are getting the accessibility, you are getting the functionality of the platform, regardless of the type of deployment architecture that you have. And again, it's all very easily done in terms of changing that up, right? So we've seen a lot of different examples that Steve has talked about today about how you can migrate from an on-prem kind of solution to one of the different cloud options that we have. And to that end, I actually have a good slide, and if we can move on to the next one here, to explain some of the basic differences of those cloud options that Steve had talked about, throughout those different five options. So he has made mention about the public cloud, managed cloud, and the private customer, private atom cloud in the customer environment. And there are big differences to this, right? So it's really important to understand some of those differences. So a lot of these things in terms of like the runtime is managed by Boomi in the public cloud. So if you're ever standing that up as an atom or a molecule in the public cloud, we manage that as Boomi in the managed cloud service. That's done by our PSO team. That is also managed by us. But then if you have a private atom cloud, that is all done on you, right? So if you want that full control of your atoms, of your molecules, of your scalability, pretty much everything, like you have full control, that is all in that private customer cloud on the far right. One thing that's important to note is, I won't go through every single one of these different data points, but the capacity. So you see on the far left side, the capacity is throttled in the public cloud, and that sometimes kind of throws people off. We do have a 1 gigabyte limit per month for use of the public atom cloud. However, even some of our largest customers and clients never even touch that 1 gigabit limit, because it's not on the raw data, but really just the metadata that gets sent through it. And so that's barely ever touched and barely ever reached. And if so, then that's when you come to us and we kind of work things out between us and that customer, right? So it's not ever like a hard line thing, like a data plan, so to speak, from a cell phone provider, right? But that's where the advantages of the managed cloud and private customer cloud come in, right? You do not have those limits and caps. All the data throughput and all the data capacity you can ever want will be available to you if you leverage one of those other two options, right? So any of those use cases, as you see at the very bottom, with all the use cases you can ever imagine, will be ideal for leveraging one of those private customer clouds or even the managed cloud service through PSO. So we can continue on through this. A little more on that managed cloud service, that middle tile in that previous slide. It is an offering that our Boomi professional services organization offers. So managed cloud service is really just the setup of, the provisioning of the architecture, monitoring that architecture for you as a customer, and managing anything that's, related to that architecture as you go forward, fine tuning it, finding the dedicated virtual private cloud if that's something that you're looking for. And of course, it can be hosted on AWS, Azure, any of the other cloud platforms that you might be leveraging. And then another option that we like to offer our customers is process monitoring and management. So this is going a step farther from just simply managing and monitoring the actual architecture and provisioning that. This is where we are actually proactively monitoring and resolving errors before they might even happening, and bringing you all the best practices for the integrations themselves, right? Even in production, and we're doing that on your behalf. So it really is the ultimate hands-off type of approach for you, right? So this is kind of a great use case for if you're leveraging EDI processes in your business and you don't have someone who's an EDI expert, or you don't want anyone to really have to worry about the EDI part of your business. That's something where you can actually hand that off to us completely and have that EDI as a service almost, right? So, but that can apply to not just EDI as well. We can do non-EDI customer and use cases as well. So we do offer all those things PSO right out of the box as an offering for an option if you guys ever want to leverage those. So we can continue on from this. And just adding on to the MCS, managed cloud service value adds. You don't have to hit every single one of these things, but do want to touch upon all the different advantages you get by leveraging Boomi PSOs in the managed cloud in the virtual private cloud that you can work with, right? So whether you're getting that extensible architecture, again, flexibility at every step of the way, you get the disaster recovery and high availability. The scalability is something that we've talked about, has been a common theme today. So it is really just an ultimate control tool for you and an option for you and your business as you go forward. Go to the next slide here. And one thing I do want to touch upon is just the engagement phases, what that would actually look like if you were interested in using MCS, right? So that first, and it's a pretty simple one. The first thing is really just designing what you want your architecture to be like. So that's when you're meeting with us and meeting with our PSO team to see what kind of architecture, what do you want to have, what's your use case, what's your future case even in requirements to kind of look forward and look ahead. And then from there, that's when we actually build and deliver that architecture for you. We stand up those atom clouds in your environments, or the VPN and peering capabilities. And then from there, it's that maintenance and ongoing monitoring of that architecture, of your integration processes, to make sure you are getting that optimal performance for integration by Boomi. And the final slide I have is, I know we have a lot of current Boomi customers here on the call. So it would be remiss of me to not remind everyone that in case you missed it, we did have Boomi Out of This World just a few weeks ago. It looked a lot different this year than the last year when we had our Boomi World back in Washington, D.C., and before that in other parts of the country. But we actually did a more episodic type of approach that was all virtual, which I encourage everyone to go to boomi.com and search for Boomi Out of This World, and you'll be able to see all the different breakout sessions and the different keynote speakers that we had that really gave a lot of important information that's that could be reliable to you, going forward, right? So I just have a couple different thumbnail examples at the bottom just to show the different topics that we touched on just in the last day from a strict product perspective. So there's plenty more where all of this came from. You can see that middle one is about achieving that elastic scalability in a hybrid multi-cloud environment with Boomi. That's something that we directly talked about today. And of course, achieving more data readiness. That's something that's always prevalent in our business, and accelerating digital transformation with us and Dell as a whole. But then there's also other topics that we talked about from RPA. We have a whole keynote on the product side, our vision and roadmap. And there's even more in our message and kind of what our idea of what integrated experiences look like going forward after COVID and even in the future, right? So I really encourage everyone to go to Boomi Out of This World, watch those videos at your leisure, get some more information about that, because there's a lot of information that could be pertinent to you and your business that we're offering out there in the Boomi Out of This World episodes that we had. So that's really it from me. Any questions I'd be happy to answer. I know Siva would be happy to answer any of the questions that he had as well, that he's from his topics. But really appreciate everyone coming out today.
Yep. Thanks, Brian. Thanks, Siva.
Thank
Uh,
you.
while we have very less time, but I have a few questions with me that have come to me. Probably we can pick one or two as per the time permits. So I think, Siva, this is for you. Uh, in a multi-tenant cloud environment, is the working data of different tenants collocated in the same file system? Someone is asked.
Okay. Can you repeat that question? In a multi-tenant cloud environment?
Is the working data of different tenants collocated in the same file system?
Oh, that's a good question. Okay. So, yeah, I mean, it is not co-located, basically. The answer is it's not co-located. Uh, in a multi-tenant cloud architecture, that's a very valid question, though, from a data sensitivity perspective. Your data is always isolated and it sits on the account-specific file system on the underlying infrastructure. So your data is not essentially co-located in the same file system together with other companies or other tenants' files. So you have an account specific file structure created when you've been assigned a tenant for your account, and that's where all your files do sit.
Okay. Probably I think I can pick one more before we end the webinar. The question is, if I understand correctly, the Boomi Atmosphere is hosted platform by Boomi, right? If yes, does the data have to go through Boomi data center for every process execution? How does it ensure data security?
So I can take this one. Something
Go
we
for
get a
it.
lot in our questions is so the Boomi platform is really where you just build and deploy and manage the integrations, right? So it's that IDE of sorts that you're actually building stuff in the build canvas or any of the other services that we offer. That is not where your data goes through, right? So your data will go through wherever you have the atoms deployed, right? So that's why people do leverage those on-prem atoms that keep it in your environments, or those virtual private atom clouds that are, a cloud environment within your own environment. That way the process execution happens all within the environment that you are choosing to have it in. And that's why we're able to say that we're FedRAMP certified, that we are PCI compliant among all the other different certifications, because no data from your side or a customer side actually ever touches the Boomi Atmosphere platform, that cloud that you see in the slide on the left. So the only thing that actually
Yeah,
touches that is encrypted metadata that we collect on the processes, that it's really for your own benefit, right? The process reporting, you see how long the process took. That's how you can, the monitoring section of the platform.
exactly.
Yeah, thanks, Brian. Probably we could take one more last that has just come in from Phil. Can other types of file system be used to replace NFS for a cluster, such as S3 compatible object storage?
Um, Brian, are you comfortable taking this question? I believe
Other types,
yes.
can other types of file systems be used to replace NFS? I believe so. I'm sure there have been use cases on that. I'm not familiar with them off the top of my head.
Mhm.
But that would be something that I think to reach out to, your Boomi representative if you have one, and ask that for more detail, because I'm sure that's coming from a use case that you're probably thinking of in your head already. So I think we would have to talk more about that offline.
Absolutely, I agree with that. I believe so as well. So, but from a specific use case perspective, we can go through that request whoever asked and brainstorm around that further.
Sure. Okay, Siva and Brian, thank you so much. Unfortunately, that is all the time we have for questions right now.
Mhm.
If we do not have time to answer your questions, we will respond to those via email. If you have additional questions, please feel free to email us by responding to the email address on your webinar invite, and we will respond to you promptly. As I mentioned earlier, we will be sending out the recorded version of this webinar in the next few days. If you would like to start any new conversation, please email us at ask@keltontech.com or visit our website at www.keltontech.com. Thank you again for joining us. You have been a fantastic audience. Bye bye and have a good day.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye for now.